IPMNation.com.
Live from the Outpost Studios in Columbus, Ohio, you're listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy. Brought to you by IPMNation.com. Get ready for the gong heard round the world.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All Natural Being. Warning, All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy is designed to shake your sense of self to the core.
It's full contact psychology with an empowering twist, a philosophical loofah for your soul.
For those of you not ready or comfortable releasing your inner superhuman, listener discretion is advised.
Here's your host,
Brian Brawdy.
Good evening and welcome back. Here we are. I'm sure I've got this all going right. No, I got the microphone over here. Of course I don't got it going right. Hold on a second. As I say to Wayne when we talk, please stand by. So you'll like this, right? So people go, oh, well, how's it going? I'm only 12 hours in, so I'm halfway in, right? And then I'm sitting here going, oh, well, thank you for the share. Thank you for this, for that. And I look up at the clock and I go, hey, wait a minute. What are you doing? It's the top of the hour, Needle Knits. You're supposed to be doing another show. So if I haven't gotten to thank you yet over in the post, please, I'm trying to get to you. But thank you so very much for joining us here at All Natural Being. We are now halfway through. And I want to thank, hey there, Brian, halfway there. Thank you, Wayne, very much, and for everything you've done to help get me to this point. Henry, you're absolutely right, brother. Thank you as well. 12 down, 12 to go. Lee, nice to see you. I know we're going to get a chance to hang with Lee here in just a little bit. He'll be calling in. And I also want to make mention of the fact that in case you've missed it, Lee and the good folks at Sales Copy Academy have graciously been the sponsors. So when you look at the clocks and you go, oh, how much time do you have left? 11 hours and 56 minutes. You look at those clocks, that's from Sales Copy Academy, and they were tremendously helpful. And I still, I'm beginning to believe that I don't know what's up with the internet. Maybe I'll look to reset it. But here's the thing. You reset this internet, it can take forever to come up. To come on back on. So I don't know what's going on with the internet, but we're going to keep going. Don't forget, if something happens to the internet feed here on Facebook or YouTube, you can go to IPMNation.com/ANB now, and you can hear the show on your phone, on your tablet, however you get there. That would be a good place to go. If something happens to the internet feed, and I don't know why it cycles. Sean was on here earlier. I should have asked him if he had an idea as to what could be causing all that. But if for some reason the internet is more inside than outside of what we have going on here with the feed, I don't know why that would be. If that turns out to be the case, please join me over at IPMNation.com. We're now at 12 hours and 5 minutes on IPM Nation. So if that happens, please let us know. I know Wayne's looking in. He's like, what's going on with that? Yeah, I forgot to put my microphone on. I'm busy doing all those other things. So what are you going to do? So here's what we're doing. Can you give me 1 second, if you would, please? OFF. Heater. All right, I got that done, so thank you very much. Let's go ahead. We'll take a call because it's no doubt right on time. Good evening. Welcome to All Natural Being. Who do we have with us?
Hey, this is Lee Rowley.
Hey, Lee. How are you, sir?
I am doing fantastic. You are looking quite chipper for being 12 hours in, my friend.
Well, thank you, brother, very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I will tell you that a little earlier, I looked up at the clock and it said, okay, well, you had 9 hours. And I thought, I'm 1/9 of the way to 81 hours.
There you go.
What am I thinking? Right? Because I joked with Dana Lee a little while ago. I was going to come back on, Lee, and go, thank you so very much for joining us here for the 12-hour marathon. Right? Just trying to get myself out of, and then I thought, yeah, well, that's not going to work. Right? So who knows? I got some water. I've got uncomfortable shoes. I've got all the rest of it. But tell me, how are you? How have you been doing? And I know you're on, well, I don't want to say where you are because that means I'm saying where you're not. And if anyone's listening, I don't want them to know, I don't want them to know your personal schedule, but I know you're out having a blast. How's it going?
Oh, I'm having an absolutely wonderful time. Yeah, I know I'm holed up in the Fortress of Solitude. We'll call it that. How's that? Yeah.
Very cool.
I gotta say, Brian, you put me on right after Dana. I mean, if I'd have known you were going to put me on after a comedian, I would have never had anything to do with this whatsoever.
No, I don't believe that for a second. I tell people all the time, and I've listened tonight where you say about the browser, leave your mitts off the browser, and I just laugh. It's been the perfect. You, Henry, and Dana could get together and write copy, and you could write a comedy skit. You could do a sitcom for sure. Maybe that's something that you all should think about in the not too distant future.
I'm not sure we'd get anything done, Brian.
Yeah, probably not.
I think there'd just be shenanigans and fun, and then at the end of the day, everybody goes home and you go, what do we do?
Yeah, well, yeah, everyone would sit around and they'd be laughing and carrying on and have such a good time. You're absolutely right. So I think that it might be a little bit of a challenge, but I think the content that comes out would be absolutely stellar. Dana, and I just enjoyed talking to her, Lee, because that takes a talent to be able to get up on stage, and no matter what you try, if there's hecklers, if they love you, if they hate you, that takes a lot of courage to get up and pull that off. So it was great to catch up with her and to learn some of the things she does in terms of her process. So it was a great hour, but I'm looking forward to hanging out with you this hour. And thank you again for being the official time sponsor of the 24-hour ramp up. Lee, what am I doing? 24-hour ramp up to the record. When I knew you were calling in, I said, I want you to be halfway. I'm halfway. I'm halfway there. I don't know what I was thinking, right? So I have a little stool. A little while ago, Lee, I got so busy thanking people for what they said in the text. I looked up at the clock and I go, wait a minute, you're supposed to be doing something at the top of the hour. What's going on? And I go, oh man, right? So my brain's already starting to go, and I'm just 12 hours into it. But that's that's how it's going for me. I thought I'd mention, in case you're watching, here is my slogan for the 24 hours. Customer satisfaction is our number one goal. So what I've been doing so far, Lee, is interviewing people that I think, one, that I just find brilliant. I think they're really smart. I think it contributes to your all-natural being, because if it were just a show about my friends coming on and we were yucking it up and this and that would be one thing. But I wanted, right, my goal of customer, number one, customer quality service was to make sure that if people were gonna honor me by listening to this 24-hour little soiree, that I could bring at least the people that I know that are the best in their particular fields. I could bring their expertise. So if you tuned in, you were going to learn something really cool. And I think most certainly with you, and when it comes to compelling people to finally take that shot, to finally channel your all-natural being, to bring your own bold, to be that entrepreneur, I think it all begins when people learn how to write copy, when people learn how to tell their own story. So I'm just fired up that you're here with us, and I hope that the listeners will get to glean some of the things that you've done, because you weren't always a copywriter. You weren't always the entrepreneur that you are now. So in keeping with that, number one, customer service, what can you tell our listeners about putting the pen to paper or the voice to the voice recorder, or the chalk to the chalkboard, whatever, and to finally being the entrepreneur, finally being the copywriter, finally being that talent they know they are?
Well, two things come to mind, and the first thing is that a lot of us are scared to step out there as entrepreneurs because we feel like necessarily what is brilliant to other people we take for granted because it goes on inside our heads all the time, and we just go, it's just what we do, and that's it. But to other people, you're sharing your brilliance, and really, if you don't step out there, you're not only hurting yourself, you're robbing the people that you could be helping, the people you could be impacting, the people whose lives that you can change and transform. You're robbing them from the opportunity to share in your expertise and to benefit from what you know and what you've learned.
Lee, that is not only is that a beautiful point, I can tell people it's absolutely how you are as a human being. I absolutely get that about you. So I guess what you could say is if you don't want to get off the stick, right, and you don't want to pull the trigger for yourself, do it from the people. Do it for the people whose brilliance, your brilliance, can positively affect their lives. I think that's a beautiful way of looking at it, I have to tell you, sir.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And that's been a transformation for me and a turning point in my entrepreneurial career as well. That point where I stopped thinking about what's in it for me. Because not that many. I'll be honest. I didn't start my business, from the word go just to give to other people.
Sure.
I was in a corporate job. I was a compliance manager for an insurance company, which is just so exciting. I can barely sit down talking about it.
I know. And you left that gig?
Oh,
what
man,
was wrong?
Yeah. And so really the writing was just building the parachute on the way down. But for several years, it really was just about me making a living and me doing things for me and my family, which you got to do because you got to pay the bills.
Sure.
And, the goodwill doesn't pay the mortgage. You know how it is. But it was really when I stepped back from that because, like everybody else who starts out in copywriting, I listen to these people in the industry. We call them gurus or experts, I guess would be a less pejorative term. These people that are saying, look, it's all about you making as much money as possible. It's about you cranking out copy as fast as possible. And in order to do that, here's these swipe files, here's these templates. Basically, you're just filling in the blanks and just shoving it out there just to go on to the next client. And, that was what I learned. And in fact, I worked with a guy who referred to his agency as the McDonald's of copywriting, which should have been my red flag right there to just get the hell out of there. But it took a few more smacks in the head before I finally did that. But once I finally just really stopped with that and said, okay, I want to make this about the clients. I want to make this about their success because I believe that if I create success for them, then I'm creating success for myself too because, it's secondary. It's almost residual. When you create that much value for other people, some of it's bound to come back to you. And, I don't need much of it. I'm not,
Sure.
I've never wanted to be a multimillionaire and
sure.
Okay, I wouldn't turn it down, but,
right. Right.
Material possessions, not really my thing. I prefer experiences. But to be able to know that I'm giving much more than I'm ever asking in return to me is a wonderful thing. And it's part of what sustains me in running this business year after year.
Let me say hello real quick. We have Marcellus. Marcellus, thank you so very much for joining us. Henry is here. Wayne is here as well. Wayne, thank you so very much. Henry Noel, 12 down, 12 to go. Thank you. Also, Patricia is watching. Thank you, Patricia. Carol is with us. Thank you, Carol, very much for joining us here at All Natural Being. We're at a little over halfway now, and we're here with my good friend Lee Rowley from Sales Copy Academy, the official time sponsor of the 24-hour ramp up to the record. And we're talking to Lee about what it takes if you're finally going to pull the trigger and you're going to channel your inner copywriter. And Lee raises a very valid point. At some point in the very beginning stages, you do it because you got to pay the cable bill. You know, Doritos and French onion dips cost so much. And you know, if you're going to throw in a bottle of sangria, you need a little bit extra for that. But then you get to the point, and I know it's a little bit trite or cliche to say it's a win-win, but Lee is talking about for you, but also good for the end user, I guess you could say. The end user of that copy, is it making a positive impact in their life? Marcellus, thank you very much. I believe I'm going to do it one way or another. I know that for sure. Dallas, thank you for joining us here at All Natural Being. So, Lee, can you expand a little more on, you got to do it in the very beginning, right? But then you figure out, okay, great, what do I got to do to make a positive impact in as many lives as possible?
Exactly. Honestly, the first thing I would do would just like take everything that I did in the beginning and just do the opposite. It was just definitely not the right way to do it, and I did not, as the saying goes, have my ducks in a row. And if you don't have your waterfowl in a line, it's hard to make things work.
Sure.
So if I had it to do over again, and what I would definitely recommend somebody else to do would be to do this as the as Gary Vaynerchuk says, the 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. grind.
Okay.
It stinks for a while, but it's a lot easier to get to that point and not worry so much about what creating the income for you when you have that coming in through another source, and then you can focus on creating that value. So that was the first thing I say. That was one of the biggest mistakes that I made, was just I think jumping too soon.
That's very interesting. Okay, so for people that are like, oh, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, I wanted to start my own business. For me, it's always come back to the tagline. For me, it's come back to that saying, that catchy phrase, right? It's always, here's the title of my company. All right, what's the catchphrase? Here's what I want to do. All right, what's the elevator speech? So for people that are listening and go, yeah, I'd love to learn from Lee. And I know we're going to be doing Lee Word Wednesdays, which I'm really excited about. We're going to be doing the Copy That Speaks podcast, where people and what did we talk about the other day, Lee? It's almost like a live cast. It's like a now cast. It's something to where people are going to be able to participate in this moment. So that if you, let's say if someone calls in and they're the weekly winner, if you will, then they'll get a chance to run an idea past you, almost like Shark Tank. When you think about it, Lee, people will be able to call in and go, Lee, what do you think about this? And then, you'll throw some copy together. We'll banter back and forth a couple of taglines, this and that. So I'm really excited about that, because am I right to believe that very well could be the launch of a business? That very well could be the launch of you as an entrepreneur if, as Dana said, you just pull the trigger. You just do it. May not be easy, but you're just going to do it. Would you see the things that people would learn at Sales Copy Academy and learn from hanging out with you online? Would you see that as being a good first step?
I would, because when you can communicate effectively and you can create relationships through the messaging that you put out there, whether it be a blog post or a sales page or an email or a script for a video that you're creating, or even if you're doing what you're doing in riffing, because you're so brilliant at just being able to do this stuff off the cuff, Brian. But some of us have to have scripts because we don't think that fast, right? So whatever it is that you're doing, if you can create those relationships through your messaging first, then it just makes all of the other pieces that much easier.
And so what would, like I'm envisioning someone going, all right, well, it comes easy for Brian, it comes easy for Lee, they're just able to riff, and the Sales Copy Academy logo is up now. They're able to do this. And I have to tell you, I'll put your logo back up. One of the things that I've always dug about your logo is that for me, it looks like when you think of a fire, when you think of the cinders, when you think of destruction, when you think of all the different things that could go wrong in life, then all of a sudden there's a bird that rises out of the ashes. There's a bird that rises, it almost looks like a griffin in terms of your logo, but out of that rises your ability to be a copywriter. And it went back to Henry asked earlier of Dana, do you find that it's just really tough experiences in life that you try to look at them in a different way, right? And for you, when I think of your logo and I look at the Phoenix, then copy rises out of your everyday. Copy rises out of the lessons, good and bad, that you've learned in life. It rises out of those ashes. So I just wanted to make mention of your logo. That's what I love about it, because for me, that's out that just is the everyday. Is that when you created that logo, is that what you were thinking about?
Well, that's exactly it. It's destruction and it's rebirth. And because I got the little bow tie, you're doing it in style. So
I do dig that.
A little take on it. I can't take credit for that one. My designer actually came up with that one for me. But yeah, it is. It's destruction and resurrection.
Sure.
And I'll tell you, and you and I have talked about this before, Brian, but I don't think that if you have never had things go seriously wrong in your life, that you can really be a good copywriter. I mean, I guess it's, again, to me, it all comes back to this empathy of being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes and understand what they're going for. And that's extremely hard to do if you haven't taken a few kicks to the crotch yourself.
I would agree. And I think that we're not encouraging for people to go out and have a tough life.
No.
Right? When I say that, but the best people, it's born out of that. What is it? If you want your audience to cry when they read it, you should cry when you write it. Right? That's one of the things I've learned from you.
Well, I don't think that I don't know of anybody who hasn't, taken a few shovels to the head or whatever, in their life. So it's just about a matter of having the courage to draw from those experiences, because if you can tap into your own frustration, your own pain, then you can tap into somebody else's.
And you think that's important when you talk to tap in? I guess you'll say in terms of the empathy with the reader, so that as an internationally well known and respected copywriter, you do it more with question marks than exclamation points. I would imagine you try to put yourself into questioning the mind of the eventual reader. So it's not about so much you're telling them what you think. You've learned how to ask the right questions to get into their mind. Does that make sense? Am I making sense?
Oh, no, absolutely. What would it feel like to be in their position?
All right.
What would it feel like to feel hopeless? Because at some point, especially with ongoing problems, which a lot of the clients that I work with are coaches and consultants, and they are trying to help solve these long-term frustrating problems. And so it's not just about being able to know what they feel like to have the problem, but to know what they feel like to feel like they absolutely have no hope. Like they've tried this and they've tried that and all these other things, and that these things are just not working. And then if you can provide a better solution and you can shine a light on that frustration, then it's really not hard for them to say yes to what you have to offer if it's better, and assuming that it is better. I mean, I don't advocate that anybody go out and say, hey, my product's better than everybody else's, and you've tried all these other things before and they failed you, but mine's not any better, but try it anyway. And I do get a lot of clients who try that, and I send them right back out the door.
Sure. Well, I would imagine that sense of integrity, that sense of if your name, even if your name isn't on it, even if you're just writing the copy that one day will compel the reader to take action, you want to make sure it's honorable action. I know that about you. So I think the reason that you do it is also the reason that you're great at it. The reason that you do it is to make a positive impact in the lives of the human beings around you. And I think that's why you're so good at it, is that people they sense that you know what they're thinking, you know what they're going through in that particular moment and all in time. And I think they feel a part of your team. Or at the very least, they feel like you're on their team.
Well, yeah, that's true, and you've probably seen a few of my posts lately. Hashtag partners not prey. I totally forgot.
Right.
About it. The partners not prey, because I was reading about the whole blue ocean thing, and the onto the red ocean, and then it's the freaking purple ocean, and whatever, purple, plaid, pink, whatever the heck it is these days. But all of these things, all this imagery centers around us as entrepreneurs and business owners being the predators, and our customers and clients being the prey. And I'm like, what the hell?
Right.
That doesn't work for me. That doesn't work for me at all. I mean, for me to be the predator and my customers to be the prey, there's no connection there.
Sure.
It just renders them useful only insofar as I can snag that sale and go on to the next person. I don't want to live life like that.
Sure.
Do you?
No, not at all. Well,
absolutely not.
Right, absolutely not. But I think that, but that's both the good news and the bad news. Because the bad news is there's all kinds of copywriters out there that don't take that to heart, and you have to watch that you don't get scammed. But the good news is the ones that are really good, the ones that are really caring, the ones that are into it for the right reasons, they're going to rise to the very top. And just, I have to tell you, you look at some of the people that have come to your website and did video testimonials about what you're capable of. It's just humbling to listen to them, because they all clearly know that you're on the top of your game. And I suspect people that are listening and calling in will be going, oh, well, he's so good at manipulating words. He's an artisan of the alphabet. He's this and that. But then to hear you say, oh, well, I take to heart what the client is going to experience if they listen to my words. I don't think there's a lot of people that were expecting you to say that, right? In a very octagon, mixed martial arts. Oh, kill or be killed. One shot, one kill. Here's how my copy is going to translate into sales. You're saying, I don't really care about the sales. I want my copy to translate into positive impact to the people that may read it.
Exactly. Again, I think sales are secondary. I think you create relationships, and relationships create sales.
All right, well, Lee, if you don't mind, we're going to throw up your logo here real quick. We're going to run to the bottom of the hour. If you can stay, can you stay another 30 minutes with us, or what's your plan for the evening? I know you're out and about running around. You have another 30?
Absolutely.
Groovy. Then we will be right back to All Natural Being. Stick around.
You're listening to the #1 rated All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy here on IPMNation.com. Isn't it time for you to renew your rogue?
top of the day from the bottom of the hour. You're listening to the #1 rated all-natural being here on IPMNation.com. Thank you so very much for stopping over and hanging out with us. All right, welcome back. We are into now, let me check this real quick, 12 hours, 32 minutes into our ramp up to the record, as we're calling it, our little 24-hour test. And it's funny, Lee, I think of when they put, if you're in special forces, if you're an astronaut, if you do these different things, and I've only been going at it 12 hours and 32 minutes, but I'm making a checklist of all the different things I have to remember for the 81 to win, all the different things that I'll be needing to do, and it's surprising the little things that fall through the cracks. Do you know what I mean? It's surprising when you think, oh, you've been doing it for 12 hours. This is going to be smooth. It's just going to go really easy. So I think I'm getting used to that. Let me say, I'm getting used to figuring out what those little things might be and how it is that I can correct some of those things. Like we won't go into it now, but I'm making a pretty cool list of things that I can get much better at. I said in a post the other day, what could possibly go right? Well, now I'm making some of the list of things, you know what I mean, that could go right. Let me say good evening and hello to Deborah Lee. Deborah Lee, thank you for joining us. Dana is back with us. Thank you so much for hanging out with us at All Natural Being, as is Jared. Lee, you said survival. I think that's about it, Jenny. I don't think traditional public houses will be around. And I can't bring it up, Lee. Did you say you don't think they'd be around for very long? Is that the point you were making?
Yeah, she'd asked what the publishing houses are looking for these days, and honestly, I think the only things they're looking for at this point is survival. I really can't. I can't imagine that a traditional publishing house will exist 15 years from now. I could be wrong. Who knows?
Could be, right?
Yeah.
Well, you just look at the things like, I can imagine a few years back where people would have been like, oh, these albums, got to stick with albums. Albums are the way to go. And then 8-tracks came out. And then, oh, these 8-tracks, this is the deal, right? And then everyone's got an 8-track player. And then they go, oh, no, these cassettes, forget everything we said about albums and 8-tracks. These cassettes, this is going to be it. This is it. And then, oh, by the way, did I mention CDs? Forget what we said about albums, 8-tracks, cassettes, and CDs. CDs, this is going to be it. And then how many years was it until everyone had an iPhone? Right? Oh, no, it's digital music. Forget about everything we said. So I think you're absolutely right to suggest that it may not. Deborah Lee, thank you very much. Hey to you as well. And I hope you are doing spectacular, enjoying the holiday weekend as well. So do you know what I mean, Lee? Everything that we think is so certain, so sure, in due time, it's replaced by something else. So I think you're right to say the same thing about publishing houses.
Right.
And would you say the same thing about copywriting? How do you see it evolving? How do you see it growing from the dinosaurs of the album world to, making it to now where everyone's listening to music on their watches, let alone iPhones. They're listening to music on their watches. How do you see copywriting progressing with that?
One of the big progressions in copywriting, and this has been a trend over the last 10 years, and I think it will continue to be, is that each word is going to become more and more important, because you've seen, since the advent of the internet especially over the last 10 or 15 years, that people don't have nearly the attention span that they used to. It's one of the things that frustrates me, and I don't mean to bash on the direct mail copywriters, like the guys in the 70s and the 80s who were creating the epic multi-million-dollar direct sales letters that they were actually sending out. But I mean, look, back in the 70s and 80s, you really didn't have, you got I think we had 3 channels on TV and 2 of them didn't work half the time.
Oh yeah, I remember those days.
On a really good day, you could get like UHF or VHF or whatever the heck it was called, right? If you could get the antenna pointed just right. But you had the evening newspaper, and really there wasn't that much other media. So you get an 8-page sales letter in the mail, And like you're reading the whole thing because it's something to read, man. This thing's fascinating. By the time you get into the end of it, you're buying the gold plated bullion or
Sure.
stupid coins or the Columbia House 3-year membership deal to where you get 6 cassettes for a penny, but you're stuck forever more. They own your soul at that point.
Lee, it's so interesting that you say that because I had a client not too long ago who swore, and some still do, swear by Gary Halpern. And they would write these sales letters that just went on and on, a long-form copy, on and on and on and on and on. And then I look at guys like Ogilvy, right, where he said, what does he say? In the new Rolls-Royce, at 60 miles an hour, at 60 miles an hour, the loudest thing in the new Rolls-Royce is the clock.
Exactly.
You don't need 800 paragraphs to communicate that point. There was another one, and I don't think it was Ogilvy, although it may have been, where they were talking about this new furniture that was being made and how perfect it was in terms of its engineering. And it said, if this table seems uneven, we'd check your foundation. Mm-hmm. Right? So, right, that kind of copy, is that what you're talking about, where it's going to go from long form to shorter, but really impactful in terms of the vision it puts in the mind of the reader?
In terms of that kind of copy, yes, but also even descriptive copy in terms of what you're getting. Those things have to become so concise, even product descriptions. When e-commerce sites that are selling physical products, these things have become so concise because look, we've got it's defunct now, but there for a while we had Vine. I think that was a Twitter venture, if I remember right. Where they went to this 6-second video, and it was like, well, what does that really say about our society when there is an appetite for 6 seconds of video? What it says is that we are so inundated with media, we are so inundated with opinions, we are so inundated with information these days that if you were not concise, if you don't carefully craft every word perfectly, then you're not going to cut through the noise.
So would you say that's what bumper ads have become? You're doing a bumper ad. And what's a bumper ad? I think now 3 to 4 seconds they talk about. So is it? But I mean, how far can it slide? How much copy if you get if the new bumper ad is 2 seconds? Buy this, right? Is that your copy? Buy this or buy now? I guess maybe you could call that a 2-second bumper ad. But is that what you mean?
Yeah. Well, it obviously there's a logical limit to where it can go, but the faster you can get that information across, and one of the things that I always make sure to do even if I'm writing a sales page, because I do get a lot of clients who still want the behemoths, the 4,000, 5,000, 10,000 word sales pages that just go on and freaking on and on and on, and nobody's ever going to read that, but People read the headline and the subheads, the stuff that's in bigger font, and all of the rest of it is just details and filler. So I've done heat mapping for years of how people interact with these sales pages, and what I find is they read the headline. Okay. If they get past that, then they're going and they're reading the subheadlines for each section. So they're stopping to read it and then skipping over the text and going on to the next one and then reading the next subline. So basically, and then after about 5 or 6 of these, they're either going to get off the page or they're going to scroll the heck down to the bottom to look for the price.
Really?
And then if that matches up, if that aligns with their expectations for what they've gotten from that headline and the first 5 or 6 subheadlines. If that matches up, then they'll go back to the top and start reading the whole thing. Not necessarily every word; they'll still skim some of it, but it's basically like, okay, I get the gist. This might be for me. Now let's go back and get the details.
Interesting. So as a copywriter, then what do you do to make, knowing that, and when you say heat map, that's a term that's new to me. I'm assuming that's just some way of looking at where human eyeballs fall on a screen or fall on copy. Is that it?
Okay. Yeah. I apologize for that. There's terms of the industry that.
This is great.
Nobody outside the industry
Hold on.
Yeah,
in case you're watching, this is why I say, Lee, hold on. Customer satisfaction is our number one goal. I would love it if the listeners go, what does that mean? That's why it's an honor to have you on, because I think hopefully people will listen to this now and go, wow, what's a heat map? How does that work? Because I think this is really important. So do you mind taking it from the top?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So heat mapping is pretty much like it sounds. There are several software programs and SaaS programs out there. Hotjar is the one that I use. There's quite a few others. But essentially, what it's doing is monitoring user activity on a piece of copy. Okay, and then it's showing you where they're going and then where they're landing most often, because you'll start seeing the blue blobs, and then inside those you'll see the yellow, and then the orange, and then the red. Okay, so what that's showing you is the going from blue to red, you're seeing increasing frequency of them hovering over that spot.
Okay.
And then the red is like that's where everybody's going. And if you follow those, if they essentially connect the dots, then you get to see the user experience from the user standpoint. Mm-hmm. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what what you're getting is just a picture of. I don't want to use the word average, because there is no average customer, but you're getting what the journey that people are typically taking before they either say, yes, I'll buy, or no, let me find that X at the top of the page.
Okay, so let me ask you a question then. And again, I guess, well, here's the thing. Some of it depends on the client, because I come to you and I say, Mr. Rowley, I'm going to hire you. I'd like a 10-page copy. And you go, well, it's been my experience that doesn't necessarily work anymore the way you may think it does. So could I interest you in same results, smaller copy? And they go, no, I want you to do it this way. So how do you juggle knowing what will work and a client that thinks they know what would work? And I would often imagine, Lee, that if a client says, no, we'd prefer you do it this way, I can picture you. I can hear you saying, great, then good day, and enjoy doing it that way, right? You don't need to take clients, right? It's not like you're out with a cardboard sign saying, we'll write copy for a chicken sandwich, right? You don't need that. So how do you balance? The first question is, how do you balance the two? And then do you ever find yourself writing copy just for, and I'm going to assume like a thesis sentence, or you have the headline and you have the subheaders all the way down. Do you ever find yourself writing copy for the subheaders, knowing that's where the eyes are going to fall? And then do you go back in and retrofit paragraphs of copy based on those headers?
Okay, so answer to the first question, okay, as far as what to do. It's more work for me. But if I take a client on like that, and you are correct, Brian, except that I'm not quite as polite about it as you would like to. It's more of a don't let the door hit you where your DNA splits you. That's generally more how it goes down. Because there's if I'll try to be nice about it, and then they'll argue, and then I'll try to be nice about it, and then they'll argue, and then Ugly Lee comes out, and then just things get out of hand. So, but if I like the client enough to do that, then I like it. I like them enough to put the work into it. And what I will do is do what they want, and then I will strip out the 3/4 of the copy that doesn't need to be there because it doesn't add anything. The whole point, every word of the copy, the whole purpose of it is to get people to take whatever action you want them to take, whether it be book a call, or buy the thing, or come into the showroom, or whatever the heck it is.
And to mention that my favorite color is blue, right? You always get that. To mention my favorite color is blue.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I've done this before. I said, look, okay, I've done what you wanted. I've done it the way it should be.
Right.
Since I put all this time in for you, I expect you to split test this. And that's another term of art, which basically means just pitting one piece of copy against another to see which one gets better results. Okay?
Patricia says, no, it's not uglily, it's honestly. And I like honestly. You have to look at that. I like that, honestly. I'll tell you. And I'm laughing. Thank you, Patricia, very much. I'm laughing to myself when you talked about the copy, because let me hijack it for just a second. I'll go on site for our clients, and it's happened a half a dozen times. Some of them are currently airing nationally. And the client will say to me, we'll FedEx you the script. And I'll say, well, you could save the FedEx, I'll order dessert at lunch, save the extra money. Let me get 2 desserts, right? And they just they're kind of stunned, and they go, you don't want to see the script in advance? No, I don't want to see the script in advance. And they go, well, don't you want to memorize your lines? Heavens, no. And I've gotten to the point, and I know this is wild, but I've gotten to the point where I've said to the clients, give me the first 3 words. I want to know the first 3 words that come out of your mouth. And then you give me the 3 words and let me riff. Now, if I do a 30 or a 60 and you give me the first 3 words, if you don't love it, if you don't like it, I'll do whatever the script says. I'll walk out behind a car, give me 10 minutes, I'll memorize your script, and I'll come back. And either I'm really fortunate or really arrogant, or it's just lined up that way. But more times than not, including 2 national commercials now, clients will go, oh no, we liked your riff better than what we had written beforehand. So kind of like you, I think is what you were just saying is you go, okay, Mr. Client, Miss Client, however it is. And Jeff says where the DNA splits you. He loves that, by the way. So thank you, Jeff, very much. Thank you, Dana. 12 to go. Right? So like you go, okay, I'll do it your way, but will you at least try my way? Look at my way. Tell me whether you like it or not. And if not, then we'll talk about doing it your way. Did I misunderstand you there, or did I catch that right?
No, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Sometimes they're stubborn and they just say, hey, I'm going to do it my way because I came up with it, and
sure.
Some of that becomes some chest thumping, I guess we use that term.
Okay.
Of just not wanting to admit you're wrong, even if it costs you sales. And those are the clients that when they come back and say, okay, for our next project, and I say, no, sorry.
Right.
That's there is no next project because I work to make results for my clients. I don't work just to make money. So I'm not going to take your money knowing full well that you're just going to trip over your own shoes.
Right, because ultimately, as you said to start the hour off, ultimately you have a bit of a reputation. You're not going to be tied to a project that's going to fail. Mm-hmm. But equally important, and what I really dig about you, is you don't want to be tied to a project that isn't going to benefit the consumer long term. And I imagine if they have a product that the consumer, it will really help the consumer. Like any of the things we've talked about today, right? You have a product that could help the consumer, but you get in the way of that help because of crappy copy or inconsistent copy or wanting to do it the CEO's way, then you're actually doing a disservice to humanity. And I think I dig that about you, because I believe deep down inside me, right? I believe that's what you're all about. And if you write it to be good for humanity, then that becomes your mission statement. When I think of Sales Copy Academy, that's what I think of. When I think of Lee words, when I think of copy that speaks, I haven't known you forever, but I've known you long enough to know that I don't believe you take advantage of your abilities in writing copy, and I don't think the best copywriters do. I think they want to communicate a point because they think their point will help humanity at large, or at least the target audience, right? I know we don't like the word target. At least the hoped-for consumer will be benefited And therefore, you put your energy in a writing copy that's going to get the attention of the people it should get. Is that, am I reading it right?
That's absolutely right. And you're actually benefiting them if the product's good, if the service is good, if it's
Sure.
something that's actually going to bring positive change to their life, then you do need to integrate those sales tactics. That's one thing I hear from clients all the time, especially coaches. So like, I don't feel comfortable. So I don't want to sound salesy. I don't want to sound sleazy. I don't want to sound like a used car salesman. You don't have to do that.
Sure.
You can use sales tactics without being salesy and manipulative. And in doing so, you're benefiting the customer because you're not trying to get them to buy something they don't need.
Sure.
You're showing them why they need what you have that's actually going to work for them.
Oh, I think that makes all the difference in the world. I think if you do, I've often said that if you do your job right, people say, well, what's it take to close the sale? If you do your job right, they'll tackle you before they'll let you out of the room if you haven't closed the sale, right? You go, well, what's your tactic for closing? What? Well, what's your hook? I'm sorry, what? Well, what's your favorite technique? Huh? Right? And I look at them, right? Because I'm just done. Because if you're passionate about what you do and you find copy that answers the questions that bubble up naturally in their minds, you just don't wave and walk away. They're going to go, well, where are you going? Wait a minute. I'm in. I'm good. Put me down for 2 scoops, right? Like, right? What's your tactic? I'm sorry, I'm not that bright. I must not be that smart. I don't have a hook. Oh, well, what do you think about the takeaway clothes? You want my shirt? What's the takeaway clothes? I don't even understand what that means, right? What do you think about this or about that? Look, just be honest. Be passionate. And I say to people all the time, you have the steak. Let me figure out how to write this sizzle. I'm not going to tell you how to write your steak. You have your product. You have what it is. Let me see if I can figure out how to write the sizzle. And we'll see, if the two of us meet anywhere, hopefully somewhere in the middle. What say you?
Right, exactly. I say as far as my favorite tactic is being human.
Sure. I love that. And Dana says, be passionate. Patricia says, Target is okay to shop at if you need...
Yeah.
Patricia and Dana. Okay, so here's the scoop. We're going to get Dana, we're going to get Patricia, we're going to get you and Henry together, and we're going to write a sitcom. That's what it's going to be. Patricia says, Target is okay to shop at if you need something. She goes on to say, to close the sale, they should not have the pen to sign on the dotted line. That's interesting. That's very interesting. And Dana says that she agrees. So, Lee, I promised I wouldn't hold you past the top of the hour. So let me final thoughts about, because what I'd love for people to take away from our time together is not only that you're going to be doing Lee Words on Wednesdays in the future, not only are we going to be doing the podcast Copy That Speaks, but if there's someone that wants to be an entrepreneur, there's someone that's looking for just that little bit of a push, right? What could you say to compel them to put their heart's highest priority, if being a copywriter is one of them, if writing a tagline or a slogan or some copy for their business venture, if that's putting their heart's highest priority top of the list? Thank you, Dana. Lee Words. I like it too. What would you say to that person or those people listening?
I think the most important thing that you need to do is to realize that the inner critic is always going to be there. And your voice is your best voice. I mean, I see copywriters spending years and years and years and years trying to sound like somebody else. So the best person you can sound like is you. But when that happens, I don't know if this is true for everybody, but it is for a lot of people. But for me, when I'm being authentically me, that's when that inner critic shows up and says, oh, you can't say that. You can't do this. You can't do that. That's not right. People are going to think that's stupid. People are going to think that's moronic. You're never going to be able to have a client again, blah, 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 blah. No. And that critic doesn't go away. And I've read book after book after book after book about trying to get rid of that inner critic, about trying to silence that inner critic. And I'm not in front of my computer, so I don't know how much time I have, which is probably
that's
why
going to take your time. No, brother, I just don't want to. I just don't want you to go. I'm sitting here. Kelly had left me some gloves, some plastic gloves from her job as a dental hygienist, and I thought as I'm listening to you talk about some of the people that write copy, I've read some of the copy that these people write. I couldn't even type it with plastic gloves. I'd be afraid of giving myself something if I had to write some of this crappy copy. Well, I'd have to look. So I'll get you a pair, Lee. Not that you'll ever write crappy copy, but look at these blue gloves. I don't know if you can see me, but these are right. So please take all the time you want. I've got nothing but time, brother.
So what is that? You're catching a CTD, like, cognitively transmitted disease or something like that? Cognitively
transmitted disease, yes. And I should tell everyone that you and I kicked around the other day. What did we call it? The cyborg media group? Because we both have different things implanted and tunneled in and this and that. But yes, a cognitively... You kill me. It's even better than sauerkraut in lasagna. Even better than that. But yes, it's a cognitively... I have irritable brain syndrome, right? Right? So here's the sound of the glove, right? So I'm just going to type crappy copy, and I'm getting tired. I don't want to give myself some. I'm sorry to interrupt, but yes, take all the time you want. You're in charge of the clocks here. So I'm sorry to interrupt. What was your
That's okay. I'll finish my thought and we'll go with that. So I'm talking about the inner critic, because this is something that's been going a lot around in my head lately because it just does.
Okay.
Because that's something that creative people constantly deal with, is that inner critic. And like I say, I've read so many books about getting rid of it and silencing it and blah, blah, blah. Okay. First of all, I've realized that's never going to happen.
Okay.
It's never going to go away. And Brian, I'm going to be a little serious for now. That you and I have talked before about how I had a daughter who passed away when she was 10. Okay, and she was our only child. And when we were going through the grief sessions, somebody said something to me that really stuck. They said, it's like losing a child is like losing a limb. You never get it back. You just learn to work without it. Okay, and I've kind of flipped that around on this whole inner critic thing. The inner critic is not going to go away. You can't get rid of it. But if you can acknowledge it and go and look at it for what it is, which is just fear of stepping out of your comfort zone, fear of other people's opinions, which don't matter anyway. If you can look at it for what it is, you can work alongside of it and still create brilliance.
And I have to tell you, Lee, since you brought it up, I have a younger brother who lost a young daughter as well. And I think about you guys. I think about you a ton. And to have gone through what you guys have gone through, and to still have the smile on your face, to still have the sense of comedy in your writing, to still be as compassionate and caring about other people, and is your copy going to ultimately make their burden in life any easier? I tell you, I think about you all the time, and I remember what it was like for my brother, and you know what? I've had a bone tumor, big whoop-de-doo. I don't know if I could handle it as graciously as you have, and I hope you let that in as a compliment, because I mean it with all the sincerity I can muster. That's it. I just think about you a lot, and what that must be like. So, for whatever that's worth.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. This is one of the things, like I've said before, we don't, Jim Morrison even said, nobody here gets out alive. So, and nobody gets through it without a few knocks too. So that's what it is. Just learning to use those things to your advantage and to other people's advantage.
And I think the latter is probably very true for you, learning how to use things to other people's advantage. I think, and it comes across in how you are as a human being. It comes across as how you are as a copywriter. And, I just want you to know it's great knowing you, and you inspire me to And I don't want to sound all corny, so let's not forget the word inspire. You just move me to want to be better at doing it, and I'll have you comment on this story, in case people haven't heard me talk about it. But you with the apple cider vinegar, I can picture you crawling up on the counter, getting in the top cupboard, and pulling out a bottle of apple cider vinegar because you really wanted to know what the end user was going to experience, in my estimation. So I've always been moved by that story about you. So I'll leave you for final thoughts.
Well, Brian, I think my brain's run out of words at this point today. So, even though I am technically on vacation, I think that I've done about 6,000 words today for a client. So I think that between that and this, I've officially have none left. I just want to say thank you for bringing me on the show. Likewise, it's an absolute pleasure to know you, and I love seeing what you're doing.
Well, thank you.
24-hour marathon, and I have absolute utmost faith in you that you're not only going to rock this, but you're going to crush the 81 hours.
Thank you, my friend, very much.
No doubt in my mind.
So since you don't have any more words, as you say, it's about time to wrap, I would love to leave you with something that's caused me to laugh all day long, and then we're going to go to the top of the hour, and then Matt Connerton is here from IPM Nation. Matt knows what it's like for me to be over on a call time, so he's not going to be worrying about it. But I will leave you, my friend, with these. I will leave you with this. It makes me laugh every time I hear it. So even though you're on vacation, if you want to do another dozen of these between now and 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, I'll take them. But we will leave you with these words. Lee, thank you so very much for being a sponsor of the Time Clocks, and thank you for your expertise and your time tonight. And here we go.
Hey there, this is Lee Rowley from Sales Copy Academy, and you're listening to the live 24-hour all-natural being marathon with my good friend Brian Brawdy. Keep your mitts off that browser tab because Brian will be right back after this short break with another solid hour of all-natural shenanigans on All Natural Being. Stay tuned.
Keep your mitts off that browser tab. Every time I hear him say it, it just causes me to laugh. Lee, thank you so very much, brother, for hanging out with us. And I'll look forward to hearing about how great your vacation unfolds.
Great. Thank you.
All right, man. Talk to you soon. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get out of here. I do have a call time, and it's Matt Connerton, so Matt's used to putting up with me. He knows what's going on. And yes, let me say hello to Susan. Let me say, Patricia, I was falling on the floor laughing myself. Let me say hello to Jenny. We're going to go ahead. We're going to do our top of the hour thing, and I am going to reset the internet. So, Matt, just so you know that, I'm going to reset the internet to see what it will take and see if it will strengthen the signal at all. So we'll be back in about 3 minutes. Thank you so very much for joining us here at All Natural Being.
IPMNation.com.